Welcome to this week's Eternal Monday. Today we have the first of our non-tournament games. This is going to be Copperajah versus Blastoise Water Box.
Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that the Eternal format is a base set onward format with a ban list, so it's like Unlimited, but a little less insane. If you want to learn more about the Eternal format and the cards on its ban list, you can go to justinbasil.com/eternal.
Up first, we're looking at Blastoise Water Box. This looks vaguely familiar to people who've played Chien-Pao in standard format. But instead of having Excalibur, you have Deluge Blastoise from Boundaries Crossed. Has the exact same effect. Deluge just lets you attach water energy wherever you want, however you want, just like Super Cold. The difference is that Blastoise is Blastoise, and its ability has a significantly better name. Because it's Blastoise, though, that means you're using the Squirtle evolution line, and you're able to split it off with Blastoise GX. So in certain situations, you don't want to be discarding energy over and over and over again, because you just can't afford that kind of resource expenditure. And the best way to fix that is with Blastoise, where you're shuffling the energy back in instead of discarding them. So if you're trying to go against a single prize heavy deck, for example, you may choose to lean into Blastoise instead of the Chien-Pao. Now, for your draw support, you have Claydol. Claydol is extremely good in this deck, and basically every deck that it's in Eternal format, you have that option to put up to 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck, and then draw until you have 6 cards in hand. Cosmic Power is a staple of the format, and for very good reason. You're able to find your Pokemon with stuff like Dive Ball and Luxury Ball, also good cards in this format. Brooklet Hill allows you to find your Water-type Pokemon and your Fighting-type Pokemon, which is actually why this deck is running the Fighting-type version of Baltoy. I don't think that's the right Fighting-type version of Baltoy for it to be running, but it is indeed running a Fighting-type Baltoy, so it can still find it with Brooklet Hill. It also has access to Floatstone to make sure that it has some maneuverability. You can't just get gust-stalled with that Blastoise GX, for example, or with Lapras. And then finally, you'll notice this deck runs 3 copies of Nessa in addition to 3 copies of Superior Energy Retrieval. Nessa is extremely good in this deck, as even as a supporter card, not only does she allow you to get your energy back from your discard pile, but she's accessible via Versus Seeker. So you can Versus Seeker Nessa back into your hand and then play Nessa down to get up to 4 in any combination of basic water energy and water type Pokemon. So you're able to basically immediately get 4 water energy back and splash them back down with Deluge. And that's especially good if you're going against a deck that has item lock, like one of the Bennett variants, because Nessa is not an item card like Superior Energy Retrieval is. So you can still play Nessa even under item lock and take those knockouts against Bennett or Trevenant. And its opponent is Copperajah EX. Copperajah EX, of course, is a bulky boy. Copperajah has the attack Nosequake, does 260 damage. This attack also does 30 damage to each of your benched Pokemon, but you're not so worried about that because you have Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime has the bench barrier effect that protects your Pokemon from the damage done by attacks. That includes your own attacks. So Nosequake will not be damaging your Pokemon if Mr. Mime is in play. Now, something to note too is this Copperajah is a stage 1, but even with that stage 1 status, it has 300 HP, and that can be made even bulkier with the effects of some of the other Pokemon in this deck, like Lucario and Melmetal GX. Lucario and Melmetal GX has the attack Full Metal Wall GX, which reduces the damage that all of your Metal-type Pokemon take by 30 for the rest of the game. So Copperajah effectively has a 330 HP mass that has to be gone through. Now, as if that weren't enough, you also have access to Metal Frying Pan and Metal Goggles, both of which also reduce the damage you take by 30 if they're attached, and a Metal Core Barrier that reduces your damage by 70 when it's attached. Now, Metal Core Barrier, unlike the other two, will just fall off after a turn, so you don't get to have it stick around very long, but in a pinch, it can be a great deterrent for your opponent. This deck also runs a few other interesting cards. Magearna and Steel Shelter are both there for a counter, if you will, to a paralysis lock deck that's been very popular recently locally. And Magearna also happens to be very good with dealing with Sableye pings. So if you're going against Sableye in a Lost Box or Lost Link variant, the Magearna and its ability, Mystic Heart, will protect you. Mystic Heart says prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks except damage done to each of your Pokemon that has any metal energy attached to it. Existing effects are not removed. So this protects you from those pesky pings from Sableye, but it also protects you from the instant knockout effects of something like that from Lost Link Box. This deck runs the Roxy engine, using Execute with Propagation to pull those executes back into your hand to discard them with Roxy, which allows you to discard up to 2 Pokemon from your hand that are not Pokemon EX, that's capital EX, or Pokemon GX, and then draw 3 cards for each Pokemon you discarded in that way. So as long as your opponent doesn't have some way to shut off that propagation ability, you have almost constant access to crazy amounts of draw. Finally, we'll look at the Metal Energy in this deck. This Metal Energy, you see the basic Metal Energy, there's 6 of those, but there's also 4 special Metal Energy. Now, these Metal Energies are especially special because they were the last special Metal Energy before it was only ever basic Metal Energy that was Metal Energy. After that point, special energies in general were no longer their type when they weren't attached to a Pokemon. So unlike, say, Coding Metal Energy or even Shield Energy that came a little bit later, than this Metal Energy. This energy, this Metal Energy specifically, is a Metal Energy, even when it is in deck, even when it is in discard pile, and even when it is not attached to a Pokemon. That makes it a very unique situation for card interactions, because something like Metal Saucer that attaches a Metal Energy from the discard pile to one of your benched Metal Pokemon can attach this special Metal Energy. A lot of these attacks that specify to search your deck for Metal Energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon, like that on Lucario and Melmetal GX, can attach this Metal Energy to your Pokemon, because this Metal Energy is a Metal Energy, despite being a special energy card, even when not attached to a Pokemon. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the game. All right, as our players get shuffled up, I'll just remind you this is Copperajah versus Blastoise Water Box. I will also point out the Blastoise deck has had significantly more time to polish itself. Even though it hasn't necessarily made it into videos already, it has been part of, I think, 3 different tournaments already, and this is the first draft for the Copperajah list. We did see a mulligan there from the Blastoise player, it looks like. So we got an extra draw on the Copperajah side. We got a Baltoy start with Floatstone, so not terrible, not as good as it could have been, you know, not starting the Baltoy. Maybe starting Chien-Pao instead, but it's not an awful start if you have that Floatstone. Getting a Radiant Greninja off of the Brooklet Hill to be able to draw with that Concealed Cards ability. Super good turn 1 so far, honestly, from Blastoise. A little bit of shuffle up to question what they got going on next here. We just doing that draw, just going for the draw. Drawing the 1 and 2. I'm gonna throw the Greninja in the active spot and just pass. Is that what all they're doing? They're gonna attach an energy to it first, so it's not stranded next turn at least. They are passing their turn over. The Hisuian Heavy Ball going into those prize cards, immediately finding a Cufant for the Copperajah player. Copperajah is not a basic, does have to evolve up from Cufant. We do see a Battle Compressor on the Copperajah side, getting a pair of those Execute and a Metal Energy into that discard pile so it can be made use of. Attachment to the active spot, that Full Metal Wall is now available. I suspect that we'll see that this first turn. Computer search, discarding Zacian V and Roxy for a Jasmine. Jasmine going to search the deck for up to 5 metal Pokemon and put them into the hand. That effect only happens on your first turn. Otherwise, you're just searching for 1 metal Pokemon. Now, this is the Copperajah player's first turn, so those 5 are there. I actually only see 4, but you know, that's what they chose. Yeah, so a couple of Cufant and a couple of Copperajah. Seems good. There's that Full Metal Wall. So all of the metal Pokemon on the side of the Copperajah player will take 30 less damage for the rest of the game. We do see another Concealed Cards on that Radiant Greninja, discarding another Water Energy for those 2. We see Lapras come down with Support Navigation, finding Irida out of the deck. Irida itself finding a Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao, a good thing to see for this deck. Want to see that attacker as soon as we can. Do have to wonder about getting a Squirtle down so that Blastoise can come out to play. Oh, there's the Squirtle. So Squirtle maybe already was in hand. I can't quite see what was going on there. Must have already been in hand. Just kind of got played down at the same time there. No. I see. I understand what happened. Brooklet Hill happened at the same time. So it was Brooklet Hill and Irida that were played at the same time there. All right, we do see Chien-Pao make it into the active spot off that manual discard from the Radiant Greninja to put it in the active spot and make use of Shivery Chill. So 2 energies coming into play there. Still not a bad startup for the Blastoise player. I would have liked to see the Squirtle last turn, perhaps instead of the Radiant Greninja, but you do really want to get that draw as soon as you can, and that draw did allow them to find Irida. So obviously the call was a good one. Boltway has been in play for a full turn, so it is able now to evolve into that Claydol. Claydol has that exceptional Poke Power, the Cosmic Power. Allows you to put up to 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck and then draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So it looks like our player here is going to be drawing 3 cards off of that Claydol. And they're going to pass. So Copperajah goes again. Copperajah evolving up on the bench. The biggest issue that Copperajah has is just how much energy it needs to get going. We do see an attachment to the active Luke Metal. Trying to get some damage in, I think, just chipping away. That first attack on Luke Metal, I believe, does 50 damage and then it lets you accelerate from the deck to your Pokemon. I'm gonna just look that up real fast. But yeah, it's a good effect. It's not really what you're hoping to do as a Luke Metal player, though. You would, or well, as a Luke Metal player back in the day, yes, but as a Copperajah player that features Luke Metal, you would really want to get your Copperajah out and attacking. But yeah, Steel Fist does 50 damage or 100 against Chien-Pao, and then you're searching your deck for a Metal Energy and attaching it to Luke Metal specifically. So Lucario Metal can only attach to itself with that effect, so you can't accelerate to your Copperajah like you might want to do. But 3 energy on the Luke Metal is not the worst thing in the world. Heavy Impact will do 150 if it's powered up, and now that it has 3 energy on Luke Metal, you just need 1 more. Unfortunately, it does look like that Lucario Metal GX is going to get knocked out. We do see a bunch of energy come back into play with the effect of Nessa, and that Chien-Pao already has quite a bit of water energy attached. So we see a big flood on that second Chien-Pao. And Lucario Metal GX only has 260 HP. That's 290 with, well, effectively 290 with full metal wall, and then with that special metal energy attached to basically 300. So just need 5 energy discarded here for that Chien-Pao to take the KO. And we do see the 1, 2, 3, counting real hard there, 4 and 5, yeah. And throwing a 6th one in there for good measure, it looks like. Yeah, that's a knockout. It's a big knockout too. Lucario Metal gives up 3 prize cards as a tag team. You know, it has those really good effects with its attacks, but you do have to worry about giving up 3 prize cards when you have it in the active spot. And unfortunately, it did just give up 3 prize cards. And with that too, you just don't have any real way of getting your other guys powered up with any good speed. Have yet to see any metal saucers from what I can tell, so that's a little concerning. We do see a Professor's Letter getting a couple of metal energy out of the discard pile. Professor's Letter does specify basic metal energy, or basic energy rather, so you would not be able to get the special energy with that effect. See an attachment on the benched Copperajah. Heavy Ball going in, finding another Copperajah, so that's all 3 of those Q-Fit evolved up now. And just a pass. That is really unfortunate for Copperajah. Do see another Shivery Chill on the active Chien-Pao, pulling in water energy, and then looks like we're going to play an Irida getting a superior energy retrieval and a Chien-Pao. That superior energy retrieval will allow the player rather to get 4 of those water energy out of the deck and into play. Because of Deluge on that Blastoise. Deluge, of course, has that effect that just lets you attach water energy from your hand to your Pokemon however you like. So basically, it turns on your go button for your deck. It's really, really strong. All right, we see, looks like now 5 energy attached to the active Chien-Pao and another 3 attached to the bench Chien-Pao. That's something to be aware of, and something I nearly forgot too. Copperajah also has that bronze body effect. So it is going to have to get up to that 6th energy just to get to 360, which is not that big a deal because Copperajah doesn't have any other reductions on it. But even something as simple as a special metal energy is going to cause problems for Chien-Pao. But it does look like we're going to get the knockout here. We're going to preserve that float stone, it looks like. Going to retreat it just to keep that float stone available. And yeah, also saves that Chien-Pao. That Chien-Pao does have 100 damage on it too. Makes it a little harder to knock out. All right, that active Copperajah is gone. Had no way to save itself, unfortunately. Another Copperajah going into the active spot. Going to discard the Magearna. Search for a Cufant to get it into play. Do have to wonder if the Copperajah player is able to come back at this point, though. There's already 2 ready to go Chin Pao in play. Versus Seeker is easily able to get Nessa back. Irida can get that superior energy retrieval. So we do see a switch into the Copperajah with a special metal energy, so this is already relevant here. Hopefully the Blastoise player is going to see this and make sure to discard enough energy. So we see Versus Seeker come down. Versus Seeker is going to get Nessa almost certainly. Nessa will get 4 energy into play, but that's only going to be 6. And that's only 360 damage. Right now, in order to take out Knockout on that Copperajah, he has to do 370, which means you're going to need a 7th energy to take that Knockout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's not quite enough, unfortunately. That Copperajah does survive this turn. But is that going to be enough to actually punish the Chen Pao player? That did lose the Chen Pao, but there's still another Chen Pao ready to go. All he needs is 2 energy. Can he get the 2 energy to take that Knockout? 40 HP is all it remains on that Copperajah. Even something as simple as a Guzma. Oh, there we are. I was going to say, even something as simple as a Guzma on the bench will take a Knockout, but that is going to be game. Spirit Energy Retrieval getting that energy out, and bam. That Lapras and the game are over.
Well, that is it for today's game. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you happen to be in the San Antonio area on November 11th, you can join us for the next Eternal Format special event. Deck validation and registration will begin at 11 a.m. and the tournament itself will begin at noon. With that out of the way, I thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.